what they do best is try to program people, uh, program people's minds. So
A
Yep.
little bit about some media research.
All right, I don't know if this one is good. I didn't get to watch these videos. That Chris Hedges video, I watched that whole thing, but I don't want to bore you out with this. Let me see.
Hi, I'm Dr. Andrea Campbell. I'm a professor of media studies at St. Thomas University in Miami, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about some media research I'm doing. One of the interesting things I'm looking at now is representations of witchcraft in film and television and how that relates to feminist theory. Basically, the idea behind what I'm looking at is that the changing representation of witchcraft, which is really powerful women and women's unique forms of power, how that's changed over time and how that change really represents the changing roles of women in society. If we look back in the 1960s and the early 70s, which was really the sexual revolution, women were starting to come into power. We see a lot of television and movies with representations of magical women. Two that immediately spring to mind are I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched. If we look at these, we see these very powerful women whose power has to be contained by society and masculinity. In I Dream of Jeannie, it's so obvious. Major Nelson, the icon of the United States, he's a member of NASA. He has this powerful magical woman, and he literally contains her in a bottle. When we look at Bewitched, what we see is a very powerful and intelligent woman being contained by middle-class culture. It's very important to both Samantha and her husband that she does not use her powers for any kind of domestic ability, doing anything in the house. She must do things like a real American woman. Here's a clip that explains what I'm talking about.
I love you and I can't.
I can't play clips. You heard what she was saying, though.
no, yeah,
Pat?
yeah, I'm totally there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Like, you know,
Well, I think there's a lot of depending on from what angle you're looking at, 'cause I love both of those shows. I used to watch them in the morning before I go to school. Um, but I guess it did, based on the way she's presenting it, I would say that yeah, it had an effect on, like yeah, these women had, were very powerful women, but if you're looking at it from a man's point, like they needed to control them because if they didn't, who knows what they would do. But I mean, I do remember times where on Bewitched, like somebody showed up and saw her the vacuum going over the floor by itself, and they had to do something to that person to erase their memory or something. But I mean, either way, yeah, I want to hear more of what she's.
yeah, I'm gonna play some more. But let me read the comments. I'm behind, bro. I'm sorry, Elliot. I wasn't on the screen. I didn't see none of these comments. He says, not sure how many people are there. However, many have no voice. He's probably talking about Italy. This is from 1157. Freedom of speech is God-given right. Peace or blood in the streets. You can't hide. Man.
Wow.
9/11. He says, Pat's taking over the show. He says, your analysis is 1,000%. And he says, they are actors. And she stated facts. Let me play some of the lady here.
Modern day, and we actually see a very different representation of magical women. A very, very popular television series was Charmed, the story of three witch sisters learning how to use their power. Rather than being contained, what we see is focus is on learning. These powers are important and they should be used, but they need to be learned how to use properly. In this clip from one of the first episodes, we see the traditional approach. The father tries to contain and protect his girls from their power.
Yeah, I can't play no clips. They're gonna get me.
Okay, so this is more of a new age. What that's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
No, that's Charmed.
Charmed.
Yeah, and I used to watch that. I had a significant other that really liked that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in this one,
you ain't gotta say your significant other. You like the show too, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the. I was a fan of one of the chicks in there. She's really cute.
You was watching it because of her though, right?
The show was pretty okay, man. It was pretty good.
Okay.
I mean, it's cheesy, but it was.
I like cheesy shit sometimes. So I mean,
Yeah,
I ain't trying to drag on you. I'm just,
yeah. It is what it is.
yeah.
I want to. We're gonna talk about this for a while because I got a magazine I want to look at. It's history, History's magazine, and they named it Witches of Past and Present. So we're gonna look at that. Let me see this though.
And we were very definitely radical women. We wanted to make a revolution. Ants that we kind of gathered around and, in a little circle. And one of them was something like, Wall Street, mightiest wall of all street. The reaction of the people on Wall Street was sort of stunned.
She's talking about a feminist group that it says the name of this. It says Witch, the feminist group that cursed Wall Street on Halloween. So it's just an event that happened. Let me read the caption. It says their target Wall Street, their weapons hexes. Back in the 1960s, the word witch took on a new feminist meaning.
Was it replaced the W with a B or what?
Well, that's kind of, I'm going to get into this because the whole thing with this is, pushing back against the patriarchy, but it's created by the patriarchy because they're the ones who like to call women witches. But then there's, especially present day, you have this derogatory view of them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, she's a witch. And then it's really trendy right now. It's coming back that females are identifying as such.
Well, it's like, to me, it's almost like, the patriarchy is trying to show that they still have control, and because it's all right when we go back to the the Salem witch trials and things like that, where they were persecuting witches, or putting them on trial and killing them off if back in the 1800s or whatever, I guess whatever, what was it? I guess it was the 1800s, but however, but when we move closer, I mean, it's almost like they're welcoming these different types of powers because they're not as fearful of them, or they feel that they have the ones under control that they want. So it's kind of like, to me, it's just like the shift. The more that they put these different characters out here that we see on TV, or we start to relax ourselves by accepting that women with power are really still just witches, but we're gonna give them a shot because we can use it, and we've tamed it enough to where we can use it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, because we want to belittle them. Elliot says women are intuitive, and it's being interpreted as witches.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree, and that's like, I mean, we all have powers that we just don't know how to tap into, and for whatever reason. I mean, this is like technology that we're born with, but because of the the damage that we've gone through the psychological training that we've had since our early years, we haven't tried to discover them, or to accidentally walk into them, because we've shut off those mechanisms that would allow those types of things to work. And it's just we're under psyops. I mean, there's certain things that particles and stuff they put in the air that keeps us where we're in a brain fog. We can't grow to those types of powers. So I mean, even though like they talk about it on TV, these things are real. I think like a lot of, I mean, most of the stuff is maybe it's not, it's over exaggerated on TV, but I really see it as being powers that really just humans normally have, but some people have been able to seep through the lines and utilize some of these things in private.
I want to play this video. It's only 5 minutes, and then I'm going to get into the magazine because it's got some good stuff in there. This is the caption underneath this video. It says, "The fear of being called a witch was once upon a time the ultimate form of social control. Any woman who ruffled feathers and ran the risk of being accused of being alone, and the mere accusation meant a slow and painful death at the stake. But now feminists are taking back the term. If women who speak their minds are witches, then maybe more women should be witches. Art documentary is here to tell you more about what's going on in the world of culture and current affairs with powerful, refreshing, and entertainment docs." Oh, they're just giving it. That was their freaking, what's the name? Let me play this.
Sorcière, on pense tout de suite à des figures connues de notre enfance.
It's in French. Damn it, I can't change the language. I didn't get to watch these before. I usually have them ready, but I did this at the spur of the moment because I just decided. I went to HEB and it was another magazine. I really should have got that other one. Whatever, and that's what's throwing me off. Fuck. Of course it's in French.
We've been better off if it was in Spanish, but
whatever. So I'll get into this then and make sure I'm not missing no comments. I am missing comments. He said the pineal gland has to be activated.
Well, see, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing that is getting deactivated through the programming. Like it's to some extent, because I mean we are still able to project or reflect certain things and see certain things, but not at the level in which we should be able to, especially once we reach puberty and into our adult years. But that's what I'm saying. Like they know the powers and they know what has to be done. So that's why like the programming starts at kindergarten, and whether you're like 4 years old, sometimes even younger, because of they're doing little things in daycare. But as far as how to program you, because
that's what happens. And I agree with you on that, and that's the reason why we're also thrown off. Why is it so? The movies tell the women that it's okay, and the music too, for you to be like emotional and what's the word? Like not compromising, like not irrational sometimes,
Yeah.
And it's like it's okay because you're a woman, but I'm like no. But all the movies it says this though.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing. Like I think a lot of times the expectation, the leading into the because the programming leads girls into thinking that certain behaviors, because I mean really we naturally we do, but like they get away with more things. They see that they can get away with being certain ways without getting into any trouble, whether it's overly emotional, shit, they'll swing on you quicker than a guy will. And that's because of the programming that allows them to think that, okay, well, or to know that they're going to get away with it. So I mean, if they were trained differently to where they're not overly emotional and they had more of a controlled thought from from early age, the early ages on, like they would prove to be more powerful than a male. So that's, to me, I feel like, I mean, if you really think about it, like even in school, like girls pay attention way more than guys. You know, they probably have higher grade point averages on average, mainly just because they, um, to some extent, do are under some kind of a heavy programming at an early age, whereas boys, I know personally, I couldn't get into it. Like, you know, the way my mind works, I just couldn't, get into it as much. But the powers that women actually have, if they're not distorted with all these different things, and actually, you know, put the powers that they have and put them in focus, like like they would already run the world.
Elliot says carbon 666, protons, electrons, and neutrons, and he says dark energy changes. Let me read some of this right here. This is I'm gonna start reading out of this history magazine. It says, for millennia, people around the globe have been fascinated with magical forces and the people who allegedly wield that power, including witches. This fascination crossed wildly divergent cultures. Witches appear in ancient Mesopotamian law codes, Greco-Roman myths, and even the Bible. Though many of our contemporary beliefs about witches date to the Middle Ages, in the ancient world, the lines between religion, magic, and medicine were blurred. Much of our best knowledge about witches in the ancient world comes from an unexpected source: medieval Muslim scholars who preserved and translated Greek and Roman manuscripts that later made their way into Christian Europe. Although most cultures relied on some type of magic for healing, many were deeply ambivalent about the people who practiced magic. And across the world, people who use dark magic risked playing with their lives. Our modern understanding of witch hunting came into being in the early modern period as governments became powerful enough to punish accused witches. It says outright persecution had eased by the 18th century, and the post-World War II world experienced the emergence of Wicca, a neo-pagan religion whose adherents practiced witchcraft. Today, about 1 in 5 Americans report believing in witchcraft, and more than 1 million identify as Wiccans. The widespread acceptance of witchcraft has turned witches into a business and an attraction, at times spooky, serious, or fanciful. Salem, Massachusetts, site of the infamous Salem witch trials of 1692 and 1693, even became home to a statue of fictional with Samantha Stevens from the 1960 sitcom Bewitched. Although there's no proven connection, the growth of Wicca over the past few decades has coincided with an outpouring of popular books, movies, and television shows about witches, including Hocus Pocus, Charms, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Perhaps nothing better underscores this than the phenomenal popularity of Harry Potter series of books and movies, which has generated Broadway play and even multiple amusement park attractions.
Well,
Comments.
I guess I gotta pull out my racist card right now. Is that, like how they demonized it when black women were doing it, but then they find a way to bring it back and make it palatable by having, these young, pretty white women bringing in the idea of, and of course, after a couple of centuries of them being able to figure out themselves what this magic was. So, I'm assuming that maybe some people can actually do some of it. Well, I mean, most of it was just really science. Like that's the part that I think most people miss. It's like, especially when we're talking about voodoo and this, that, and the other, putting these different things together. It's really science. You know what I'm saying? And the ability to move your spirit. Meditation and focus, a heavy focus on whatever it is that you're trying to affect.
Doing what we do 3 to 4 nights a week. King Chaka ENT.
But
Okay. Yeah, let me go into this. It says ancient origins. Ancient cultures leaned heavily into sorcery and witchcraft, weaving practices and objects rooted in magic into everyday life. It says, since humans